Hi, this is Dizzy, and I want to talk about divergent thinking and systemizing and empathizing. I did make it to Syracuse, New York, on a 3-day road trip. I've been living here for a little over 2 weeks now. Stuff still isn't here. Hopefully it gets here soon. But it's the middle of a snowstorm right now, and I love it. Anyway, since I haven't had any of my books or things to do, I've been working on writing my own books and, of course, reading and research. And I have stumbled upon quite a bit of information regarding divergent thinking in relation to people on the spectrum. Some of these studies were Asperger's specific when it was still in the DSM. And I still think it should be. So, we'll roll with that. Anyway, divergent thinking. If you don't know what that is, I'll go over it real quick. The goal of divergent thinking is to generate many different ideas about a topic in a short period of time. It involves breaking a topic down into its various components in order to gain insight about the various aspects of the topic. Divergent thinking typically occurs in spontaneous, free-flowing manner, such as brainstorming. Following divergent thinking, one must use convergent thinking in order to put all the information into an organized, structured pattern to make it applicable and practical. So what happens basically with these tests is they give a group of people on the spectrum and a group of neurotypicals the same bunch of information, or like they'll give them one object and ask them to list all the possible things you could use the object for, like a brick. The NT group would come up with a lot, like they would come up with possibly more basic uses for a brick, like maybe like as a paperweight or something. And then the other group, people on the spectrum, might have a more creative way of using the brick. And it would be a shorter list, but it would be things you might not normally consider. Brick being an example, you could use it for many things. So, doorstop, you could technically cook on it. I mean, there's a lot of ways to use a brick. So that's a basic example of divergent thinking studies that are done. Now, that only matters really because it's one of the few times we get studies for people on the spectrum where they're like, hey, they're actually better at this than the neurotypicals. So I think that it's important to highlight that. What you can do to exercise divergent thinking, and I highly suggest exercising your brain because nothing bad can come from it. Techniques would be brainstorming, which is one of my favorite things to do, especially because I write. If I have to name a character or something, just come up with a bunch of names, brainstorm. Keeping a journal. You can keep an online blog as a good way to use divergent thinking. Free writing. That's this particular site defines free writing as a person will focus on one particular topic and write nonstop about it for a short period of time. I guess that's how I got started writing. Okay, just write. Basically write. Brainstorm, just let your brain do what your brain needs to do and just write it down. And then you can put your information into a pro-con chart or something. That's what I do. So, systemizing and empathizing. Let's talk about that. Sorry, I have to read over some of my information. It's very early in the morning. Empathizing is defined as having the drive to identify the mental states of others to predict their behavior or respond with appropriate emotion. Systemizing is defined as the drive to analyze a system in terms of the rules that govern it to predict its behavior. Baron Cohen. Okay. So, as a general rule, it is a systemizing brain that you're going to find on the spectrum, generally. I disagree with calling it a male brain. I think that leads to some confusion. But bear with me. If we have systemizing brains, and we work with patterns and systems very well, and have better divergent thinking skills than neurotypicals tend to, that leaves a lot of room for things we'd be able to do. You know, especially if we actually use these skills properly. But if you have high divergent and empathy, you have your own set of skills as well. So, I mean, I'm not saying that you have to be systemizing for it to matter. But divergent thinking and high levels of either systemizing or high levels of empathy are perfect recipes for creativity, which totally screws the notion of Aspies not being creative. I mean, all the studies say otherwise. So that stereotype has got to go. It's dumb. I know many people on the spectrum who are artists. I write and sell art. So, I mean, that stereotype is founded in nothing. Empathy is not the end-all be-all of creativity. I really wish that neurotypicals would kind of end their infatuation with emotion and see that you can actually be a systemizing brain type, and I'm using that rather than saying low empathy, and still be very creative and still be very in tune with your surroundings to a degree and still experience emotions and, you know, the general emotional experience you need to be able to create art or write or have passion. It doesn't all stem from being a very sensitive, empathetic person. You can be very systematic, very thinking oriented, very head over heart, and still be creative. So, I support the idea of brainstorming and working on divergent thinking. So, anyway, this has just been me rambling and just give something to think about. I am still working on the book. I am still taking interview questions and all that stuff. I write about 3 paragraphs on a bad day. So, I mean, it's coming along fast. But it's hard for me to write something like this because it is partially a memoir, which means I have to talk about myself, meaning I have to talk about my past, meaning I have to talk about emotions, meaning I have to... It's yucky. I'm sorry, but talking about my own emotions is just yucky. There's that systemizing thing. Okay, anyway, I'm done. I'm rambling. It's snowing. And thanks to everyone who contributed to help me get to New York. And give me some ideas for new videos. Thank you, and have a good day.